Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here as we begin the second half of the regular season, or the portion of the season that I like to call the chase towards the chase for the championship. Getting ready here for a 13-race segment where we will basically be having drivers make their last-minute moves in the attempt to make it into one of the 16 limited spots in this season's playoffs, the chase for the Duracell Cup Series Championship. We kick things off with the longest race of the season. We've had an unbelievable week here with All-Star Race Weekend at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and now it's time to go racing for 84 laps in the Coca-Cola 600. It will be our longest race of the season, which means that these drivers will probably have to get themselves ready for a fuel strategy type race here today. And more often than not, I kind of consider the Coca-Cola 600 kind of almost like a super speedway race in the fact that you really have to strategize to be able to come out on top and pick up the victory. So many drivers come into this race looking for their first win of the season. Other drivers, they look to come in to try and get their second, or in one driver's case, third win of the season, so that way they have an absolute confirmation they'll be in the chase for the championship. And for some drivers, they had a win in the first half of the regular season, and now they're struggling in points, and they need either a good finish or another trip to victory lane to get themselves back into competition. Case in point, look at our pole sitter, J Millz. Won the second race of the season at Manassas, but he comes into the second half of the regular season 32nd in the point standings. So right now, being outside the top 30 in points, his victory would not count towards a spot in the chase for the championship. Another former winner lines up alongside of him. That is K Mathews, our winner from Bristol. Mathews comes into this race in a little bit better of circumstances, 18th in points, but still, he wants to get himself as far away from 30th in the standings as possible and get himself up there to the top of the points. I'll tell you why in just a moment as we go down and get the command.
Drivers, start your engines.
So why would a driver like K Mathews, who's already got a victory, want to get maybe another one, or at least get himself up into the top 10 in points? Well, the reason being is we've had 12 points races so far this season, and 13 points races this season, and 12 drivers have gone to victory lane. So if you consider the fact that maybe all 12 of those drivers will be up in the top 30 in points by the end of the season, that leaves only room for 4 other different drivers to go to victory lane before the 16 chase spots are filled. And there is so much the likelihood that we are going to have more than 16 different drivers go to victory lane before we reach the conclusion of our regular season heading into the playoffs. So for drivers that have a win, they really need to make sure they are up there in the point standings, so that way they are going to have, if they have just one win on the season, have it count towards a spot in the playoffs. You will have noticed on your screen just moments ago what the playoff field would look like taking the green flag here today at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and obviously with Chris Dollerton and J Millz, 2 previous winners outside the top 30 in points, right now we would have 6 spots available for drivers to make it in via points that you saw right there. Green flag's in the air, Coke 600 is underway, let's roll! And they're already 3 wide back there. Benny Watson, M McIntire, Dylan Young up and into the wall as he brushes it out of turn 2. Dylan Young, who's had a great week here at Charlotte so far, won the All-Star Open, finished top 5 in the All-Star race. Off to some early struggles here to start off this one, though, as J Millz out in front, Carson Gum behind him in second. Carson Gum raced his way into the All-Star race, a 3rd place run in the All-Star Open. I think he finished 13th or 14th, something like that, in the All-Star race, though wasn't much of a factor as he is all over the back bumper of the Rice Krispies Ford Mustang of J Millz. Carson comes into this race 36th in points, so a win would not only help him in terms of momentum, but also help him maybe get up into the top 30 in points. And boy, the field really broke up. 4th place, Benny Watson by himself, and there is our All-Star race winner, Jordan Lopez. Already has taken a checkered flag here this week at Charlotte. He'd love to get another one as he's looking for his 3rd win of the season. The only driver coming into this race that is in a confirmed locked-in spot in the playoffs since he has 2 victories this season. Dylan Young trying to bypass him. That would be a battle currently for the 5th position. Carter Friesen, Daytona 500 winner, follows in tow, winning one of the Crown Jewel races, would love to win another. Benny Watson's another driver that's won a Crown Jewel race. Friesen won the 500. Benny Watson won the Throne of Games 400 back at Darlington. This is considered a Crown Jewel race, and we'll be heading to another Crown Jewel race. I believe it's during the playoffs when we go to Indianapolis for the Brickyard 400. And we've got some cars on pit road. That is Seth Cole and Johnny Gardner. And I'm very interested to know why they're on pit road as early as they are, unless we had something happen that we don't necessarily know about that may not have brought out the caution flag as K Mathews takes the race lead from Carson Gum. Dogfight up here at the front of the field between a Camaro, a Mustang, and a Camry. Johnny Gardner just now leaving pit road, as is Seth Cole in the Snickers Toyota. I mean, if they had something happen, it didn't bring out a yellow, so whatever it was, they must have saved it, and if necessary, we'll show you what happened via the NNSCRA split cam. But they were taking service, so I don't know if that was necessarily where they were making a regularly scheduled stop or not, and we just saw some dust kicked up there in the dogleg front straightaway. Still no caution. Normally that's a signal someone went through the grass, and we got another car on pit road. That's Diego Yepez in the 0. 9th in the point standings coming into this race, and I wonder if he might have been the one that went through the grass. Oh, he's got some pretty significant right side damage. Up front, the battle continues on as we drop back. Oh, caution is out now. Yellow flag is out, and it takes place on lap 8. Looks like we had a wreck over in turn 3. I see some smoke lingering there. You'll probably see it as the leaders enter into that corner. There you see. That's where we end up having our first yellow flag come out, and looks like we'll be able to take the opportunity to go back and see all the incidents that took place in the first 8 laps of this race, as Carson Gum will lead us to the yellow flag. Yepez going to come out off the lead lap. I think he's at least 2 laps down now. Got some damage on the back of the Ally Banking Chevrolet Austin LaPlante. Those might have been his skid marks that we saw up in turn 3, but a lot of question marks about drivers and why they were on pit road. We saw Seth Cole, Johnny Gardner, Diego Yepez, all with unscheduled stops. And as the pace car picks up Carson Gum, let's go back and take a look at a replay of what brought out the yellow flag, and we'll also jump back and see if we can find out what those other drivers were involved in the beginning stages of the Coca-Cola 600 as the field heads for pit road. Well, here's what happened to Diego Yepez in the 0. I found out that Seth Cole and Johnny Gardner both brushed the wall off turn 2 and both had tire rubs. That's why they had to come to pit road. Teammates get together there as Yepez up the track, gets the wall out of turn 4, makes contact with his teammate Matt Haas, and both of the cars from Unknown Motorsports go through the grass, but fortunately both kept it straight, and that's why it didn't bring out a yellow. Now let's go back and see what happened to actually bring out the caution and incident over in turn 3. And it indeed was the 48 of Austin LaPlante. He had brushed the wall out of turn 2 just the least little bit. Oh, and then you see up ahead of him, that's the 22 of Mitch O'Collins getting the wall. And I think LaPlante saw the sparks coming off the back of the 22, maybe thought he had a tire going down in front of him. He tried to move down to avoid, and Keith Batson's Mustang was already there. And, ooh, there was a little contact as well between the 39 and the 9. Ryan Brommer with some damage on his Pepsi Challenger. But LaPlante, everybody else was able to avoid him, and that was what brought out the caution. So a little bit of miscommunication there. It was on the back straightaway, one of the toughest spots for the spotter to be able to tell a driver if they're clear or not. So LaPlante's spotter might have cleared him, and unfortunately that was not the case. Keith Batson was to his inside, and as a result, Austin LaPlante's got some rear end damage, brings out the yellow, and sets us up for a restart here in the Coke 600. we should get the 1 to green signal, this time by Trent Dunham. A little bit of strategy maybe being played out here. We only ran 8 laps there under that green flag run, so it may have been a fuel only, maybe a 2-tire stop, but Trent Dunham, the number 1, comes out position number 1. Of course, coming up just short, second place finish in the All-Star race, but we know he knows how to get around Charlotte. He'll restart, the leader ahead of Carson Gum, Benny Watson in 3rd. Last time out's points winner, Chris Dollerton, lines up in 4th. I think that might have been another team that played some strategy to gain some track position. Then it's J Millz in 5th, K Mathews 6th, J Shelton in 7th, K Friesen 8th. 9th place currently sits T Wright, and completing your top 10 is Jesse Turner. You see on the inside line, Diego Yepez, Seth Cole, J Gardner, who all had to make pit stops under green. They line up off the lead lap. Yepez is 1 lap down, Seth Cole and J Gardner 2 laps down apiece. All 40 cars still running, 37 of them on the lead lap. So we will see if maybe with the throwing of this caution and everybody now in a, for the most part, single file, if maybe, just maybe, now we'll settle into a long green flag run, because they were racing really aggressively throughout the field there in the first few laps of this race, as the green flag is back in the air and Trent Dunham was ready for it. Now remember, we're using the 2019 rules package, which is very draft reliant, so getting out as far ahead as he did might not exactly in the long run pan out in the favor of Trent Dunham, as you see how quickly Carson Gum and fellow Camry Benny Watson are going to close up the gap between themselves and the race leader. And Carson Gum, a big run there out of turn 4 down the dogleg front straightaway. He'll dip to the inside line and look for the lead into turn number 1. Got 2 tires down there on that white line. But he keeps it going as we got a car up in the wall. That's Chris Dollerton, the 43. Keeps it straight though, keeps it going as up front Carson Gum leads the way. Benny Watson, our Darlington winner, there in 2nd. Watson comes into this race 8th in the point standings, so a 2nd win would more than likely confirm him a spot in the playoffs. Watson gets his equipment, some of his equipment, in a technical alliance with Backmarker Motorsports, so while these two are not necessarily teammates, they do share some equipment under the hood. And as these two are going to go side by side with each other, look at Trent Dunham getting back up into the mix now, wanting the race lead back. Then you got teammates back behind them. Jordan Lopez side by side with J Millz. Their other teammate, T Wright, was up inside the top 10. He's faded back since the restart, as Lopez going to take the 4th position away. And Jesse Turner now going to try and move into the top 5. I was looking at drivers that I would kind of give the edge to coming into this race, and Jesse Turner was the one that jumped up to the forefront for me. Reason being that we've only gone to 1 D-shaped mile-and-a-half racetrack so far this season with the 2019 rules package. That was Atlanta, and Jesse Turner took the checkered flag in that race. There's Zach Rogers, the 6 Dodge Challengers. J Gardner had to make another unscheduled stop, it looks like, so more struggles for the 14. Whoa! What a save there by J Millz, almost going off the nose of Rogers. But going to Zach Rogers, the last points race we had at Fuel Motorsports Park, Rogers lost the points lead to Levi McIntire. He does have a win at Pikes Peak, obviously. That helps him out a lot, but he wants to go back to the top of the leaderboard as far as points are concerned. And boy, they are racing tooth and nail up ahead of him, 3 wide with K Friesen, Jordan Lopez, J Millz, and Friesen gets the short end of that one as he gets the wall off of turn number 2. Up front, Benny Watson will go out in front for the first time here today. Carson Gum will slide into 2nd, now crosses over to try and take the top position back. One driver we haven't talked about, Levi McIntire, came into this race as the points leader. Where is the 99 currently at? As he tries to continue to grow his points lead, and looks like he's quite a ways back. There he is at the very tail end of this group of race cars, and he is last time by scored in the 29th position. So a lot of work to do for the Captain America Marvel Studios Ford Mustang. He came into this race only 10 points over Zach Rogers, who is running up inside currently of the top 10. Move back up towards the front, and I noticed some former winners up inside the top 20. Dylan Poteet there in the 31, our winner from Springfield, currently in the 16th position. Not too far ahead, our Kentucky winner J Shelly, currently in 14th place. There's William Brock, our winner from the road course of Sonoma. 5th in the point standings coming into this race, and he's about to make a challenge for 12th on Chris Dollerton. Our Phoenix winner, Jessica Shelton, trying to bypass teammate and Bristol winner K Mathews. Mathews starting on the outside of the front row for this race. They're currently in 10th and 11th. Little contact maybe right there. Carter Friesen trying to take the 8th position from two-time winner J Lopes. And look at the pack now at the front. 2 by 2, about 3 rows deep. You got Gum, Watson, Dylan Young, Trent Dunham, Jesse Turner, Zach Rogers, J Millz, Jordan Lopes, and Carter Friesen all in this group. And if they continue to race side by side, K Mathews, Jessica Shelton might catch up into this lead pack. Now, one thing that we were able to take away from the All-Star race, we saw them make green flag pit stops, and so we know the fuel window is roughly between 29 to 31 laps, so basically a median of 30 laps. We went back green, if I remember correctly, on lap 12, so we will see these drivers, if we manage to stay green, hitting pit road somewhere between laps 41 to 44 for what would be the first round of green flag pit stops, and would certainly not have us within our fuel window, so it would not be the last time we would see them on pit road. Dylan Young there in the 2. We talked about the week that he's been having here in the All-Star race weekend with winning the All-Star Open, finishing, I think it was 3rd place in the All-Star race. But aside from that, he comes into this race with a huge amount of momentum points-wise as well. He's 7th in the point standings, 3rd highest in points without a victory. And he's proved he's very good here at Charlotte this week, so wouldn't be surprised to see him up at the front when all is said and done in the closing stages. Battle now for 2nd. Benny Watson back to the inside of Dylan Young. Talk about drivers that have a win this season that are up here towards the front, like Turner, like Watson, like Friesen, Rogers, Millz. They all know just how important it is to get a second victory, because if they fall down in the point stands and find themselves, let's say, 27th, 28th, by the time we get to the end of the regular season, if they have a second win, they leapfrog all drivers ahead of them in points that have only one victory. And as I stated at the beginning of this race, it is very unlikely we're only going to have 16 different race winners here during the regular season. I'm expecting we're going to have possibly as many as 19, 20 different drivers that have gone to victory lane, which means we're going to have about 4, 5, 6 drivers that have won not make it into the playoffs. And right now, this battle for 2nd is putting a smile on the face of Carson Gum, or maybe on one of the tunes on his car, because he is out in front and pulling away. Another thing I noticed here too, the fall off, definitely exactly the same as it was in the All-Star race. Carson Gum's fastest lap, a 29.5. His last lap, 0.6 slower. And so with the tire wear, we're seeing the lap times be much slower. And one thing that I noticed back in the All-Star race is when we got into a longer run and the tires started wearing down, it was much more difficult for drivers to make passes for position. Jordan Lopes, though, with former points leader Zach Rogers there with him, and Rogers going to dive it deep into turn 3, and he will take the 2nd position away from Jordan Lopes. At least I think so. Lopes battling back on the top side now. I think Rogers has got him down here in turn 1, though. That inside line a lot better. As you see, Lopes, 2 tires out of the dark gray. There's not a whole lot of grip up there to be able to use. And now J Millz going to move by for the third position. And this is bad news for all drivers that don't have a win, to see the 98 running up towards the front, because he came into this race outside the top 30 in points, but only by 13 points. Now with him running up towards the front, right now the odds looking good for him to make his way back into the top 30 in the standings. And Chris Dollerton, who won at Fuel Motorsports Park in our last points race, he's in the 13th position. He was only 3 points out of 30th in the standings. So right now it's looking like the two drivers that came into this race outside the top 30 in points, they have now raced their way back in. So that would put 12 drivers that have won into the top 30 in the point stands, as Keith Batson, unscheduled stop for the Blue Angels Mustang out of KEB Racing Enterprises. You can see the right side damage that he sustained. And so what was 6 spots available for drivers to get their way in on points, now with where both Dollerton and Millz are running, now dwindles down to 4. And those spots currently would be held by Levi McIntire, Matthew Rodriguez, Dylan Young, and I believe Michael Norman, as Diego Yepez, who would have been in the final slot, is currently trapped 1 lap down. Let's go back and find a couple of those drivers I just mentioned. How about Matthew Rodriguez? Field is really split up, there's no doubt about that, as J Jefferson's hitting pit road. I don't know if this is a regularly scheduled stop for the Cobalt Tools Chevrolet or not. I'm going to wait until he pulls into his pit stall. We'll see if he sustained any damage. No, I don't see any damage on his car, so maybe he's a driver that might have utilized strategy and not taken on as much fuel. Here's Chris Dollerton from 13th pitting, so I think these are drivers now that are pitting that may have used pit strategy to gain track position when that first caution came out. Want to drop back and find Matt Rod. There he is, right now scored in 26th. Points to Levi McIntire back in 28th, just a couple cars behind him. So not the run right now that Matthew Rodriguez was looking for, and there's his teammate Michael Norman, who right now, according to the live point standings, would be in the final playoff position. And look who's not far behind these guys. I mean, there's LaPlante in 35th, and there's the race leader, Carson Gum, about to catch the tail end of the field. And they've gotten themselves pretty well organized behind him, too. William Brock now up to second, so we could end up having the front of the field catch Carson Gum once again. Saw Trent Dunham on pit road. Remember, he got the race lead off of pit strategy on that last caution, so he's having to pit earlier than everybody else. Dollerton just now leaving pit road. So with them pitting now, I think we're going to be about maybe 6 or 7 laps away from seeing Carson Gum and others have to hit pit lane. And as soon as I say that, Carson Gum's on pit road. William Brock's in as well. That turns the race lead over to the orange deuce of Dylan Young. So this is our first round of pit stops, and if all stays clean and green, I think that we're going to have to be on pit road at least 2 more times before the conclusion of this race. Carter Friesen also stayed out in the 37, and I believe they are the last 2, Dylan Young and Carter Friesen, that have to pit of the lead lap cars. And oh, we got trouble! Right in front of the leader, Dylan Young. That's Adam Garcia in the 12, trying to get to pit road. He has wrecked it, and the caution waves right in the middle of green flag pit stops, and this is going to jumble everything up as the 12 car now teleports to pit road. He was still sitting down on the apron of turn 4. And with that caution coming out, pit road was closed, and I'm pretty sure pit road was closed before Dylan Young and Carter Friesen hit the commitment line. So I don't know if they're going to have to serve some kind of a penalty for that or not. And it's really all going to depend on when the pace car comes out as to who's going to still be on the lead lap or not, as Carter Friesen is going to beat Dylan Young off pit lane. So is Carter Friesen going to be the race leader when we take the green flag for the restart? We're going to have to wait and see, but the field is definitely going to be all jumbled up here with this caution coming out right in the middle of green flag pit stops. Let's go back and see what happened off turn 4. We're going to start over here heading into turn 3, and I think I might know what happened. Notice the car on the inside of Adam Garcia's Chris Dollerton, who had already been to pit road. So he wasn't going to give up that inside line, and I think Garcia in the 12 was trying to get to pit lane. Matthew Rodriguez might have also been doing the same there in the 57. And let's see what happens here. Okay, so Dollerton had to... Dollerton had to slow up for Benjamin Miles, who was coming to pit road ahead of him. He comes up into Garcia. Garcia's momentum slowed, and then he got run to the back of by J Qualls in the 11. And here's why they had to throw the caution. As Garcia tries to get the car turned back around, I think they already had thrown the caution at this point. You see the red light is on, and Dylan Young is coming to pit lane. He was not ahead of that commitment line. Neither was Carter Friesen, so we'll have to see how that pans out. But the 12 car gets stuck on the transition of the banking of turn 4 to the apron, could not get the car refired, and thus is why the yellow flag came out. And it happened right in the middle of green flag pit stops, which means that NNSCRA officials have a lot of work to do as far as scoring is concerned. And I'm getting some vibes of Bristol. Remember when we had a big scoring error there? I almost wonder if we're going to have the same thing here. And I don't know who's going to be on the lead lap. I don't know who's going to be starting at the tail end of the field. I don't know who's going to be starting ahead of the race leader, who may have gotten stuck behind the pace car. But a lot of questions need to be answered, and we're going to try and answer them in just a moment as we go back now for the restart. Yeah, so the timing of that yellow flag was certainly not good for just about everybody, with the exception of Carter Friesen and Dylan Young. Friesen and Young, you can see them run at the tail end of the field here, but they are scored in first and second. Everybody ahead of them is on the tail end of the lead lap, including the driver that was dominating before that happened, Carson Gum in the 19. There he is. He is in the third position right now on the tail end of the lead lap. There's your fourth place car, William Brock. Jordan Lopez, fifth. Sixth, Benny Watson. Zach Rogers, seventh. Shelton, eighth. Turner, ninth. And Trent Dunham right now is in the 10th position. Then it's Mathews, 11th. 12th is Poteet. 13th, Shelly. 14th, J Millz. 15th is V Almariego. T Wright in 16th. 17th place is Charles Sandfer. 18th is Julius Anderson. 19th, Ryan Brommer, and right now completing your top 20 would be Benjamin Miles. 21st is Cole Baker. 22nd, Levi McIntire. Matthew Rodriguez right now is scored last car on the lead lap in the 23rd position. And then you've got lap down cars either now on that inside line or behind leader Carter Friesen. And that would be Jack Mitchell, Matt McIntire, Wyatt Quail, Ryan Butcher, Matt Haas, Mitchell Collins, Austin LaPlante, Michael Norman, Ryan Acosta, Chris Dollerton, who was up inside the top 15 before the pit stops began. Adam Garcia is back on track. He's a lap down in 34th. Also J Jefferson, Diego Yepez, Keith Batson, Seth Cole, and J Gardner, all off the lead lap. We do have a car out of the race after the wreck that took place out of turn 4. That is J Qualls. He ran into the back of Adam Garcia, and it pushed the radiator in, and somebody's blown up just ahead. Got smoke, and that's Garcia in the 12. So whatever rear end damage, apparently it did something mechanically back there, and Garcia will be joining J Qualls in the garage area. So as we look towards the rear of the field, this is the battle for the race lead between the 30 of Carter Friesen and the 2 of Dylan Young. Everybody ahead of them is hoping and praying we get a quick caution so that way they can cycle back around on the tail end of the lead lap as the green flag is back in the air. So the battle up front is for third. The battle for the lead is back here. And everybody is hoping to bypass the 37 and the 2 so that way they would be scored on the tail end of the lead lap. And that caution they're hoping for very well might happen. They are 3 wide up here towards the front. We're going to actually jump up here because this might get awfully hairy off turn number 4. Got a couple of cars that brushed the wall. They're still 3 wide. And we just had a lead change. Dylan Young just took the lead away from Carter Friesen. You can see it in the back of the pack, and there's a wreck! Mathews, Jefferson, Lopez, and they're all wrecking here. Oh boy. Oh, Baker up right into our camera. Oh, Sandfer got a hard hit. And there's the yellow everybody was hoping, praying for. They got it. A lot of these guys right here are now going to be on the tail end of the lead lap. And they're going to be able to cycle back around behind the race leader, which right now is Dylan Young. I believe both the 2 and the 37, there they are. They did make it through the wreck. And the scoring error we had now is going to basically get fixed, but only with the aid of a wreck. K Mathews was the first car I saw go up into the wall. I believe he was at the time on the lead lap, as were Zach Rogers and Jordan Lopez, a couple of other cars that I saw involved. J Jefferson, I believe, was collected, but he at the time was off the lead lap. And we will now go back and see what happened. The field is going to get a little bit more organized now, but at the expense of the end of some drivers' day, or at least damaging of their race cars, as Dylan Young shows the way here in the Coke 600, now past the halfway point. I mean, you just kind of knew the sense of urgency was going to kick in here with how the scoring was. And let's see who starts the incident. It might have been K Mathews getting the apron here into turn 1. Oh, yeah, you see right there, he got 2 tires down the white line. It snaps the car up the track into Jefferson, into Lopez. There's Zach Rogers, and then watch on the right side. That's T Wright turning hard left into Cole Baker. That's going to send Baker up the track right there. Right up hard into that safer barrier. J Millz got a piece of the wreck. Julius Anderson may have gotten a slight piece. Did you see Lopez scraping the wall? And then here comes Charles Sandfer. Thought he had it all missed. And straight into the driver's side door of Cole Baker. J Jefferson gets another piece of the wreck right there. And J Millz did get a little bit of the incident back over in turn 1. Let's take an onboard with Charles Sandfer and see what he saw. Sandfer was on the lead lap in the 18th position. There's the wreck. He thinks he hasn't missed. Continues on, and all of a sudden, there's Baker. Hard hit there for both Charles Sandfer and Cole Baker, and we're going to have a number of drivers out of the race after this one, no doubt about it. So, as we get ready to go back green, we're still waiting on the pace car to give us the 1 to green signal, but not only did this caution, the timing of it, allow for a number of drivers to cycle their way back around and line up behind the race leaders, Dylan Young and Carter Friesen, but also the timing of this caution is very interesting too, because with what the fuel window is, these drivers might be able to, and this is a big might be able to make it on 1 more pit stop now rather than 2. So we'll see if that's going to be the case. Still going to have lap traffic to deal with, as a number of drivers were still trapped a lap down. They'll line up in that inside line. Drivers that are on the lead lap, the way they line up, Dylan Young, the race leader, Carter Friesen second, Carson Gum third, William Brock will be 4th, 5th, Jessica Shelton, Dylan Poteet 6th, Ryan Brommer in 7th. Remember, he's got that front end damage, but he's still up in the top 10. Benny Watson's in 8th, with James Shelly 9th, and Vince Almariego in 10th. 11th is Matthew Rodriguez, Benjamin Miles in 12th, and 13th is Jesse Turner. 13 cars now currently on the lead lap. Matt McIntire, you see there on the inside line, is the first car 1 lap down in 14th, with Julius Anderson, J Millz, and others behind him. So still a number of drivers hoping for a caution to take place, so that way they can get themselves back on the lead lap. And drivers out of the race after the wreck are Charles Sandfer and Cole Baker. They join Adam Garcia and James Qualls in the garage area. So 13 cars now on the lead lap. And that inside line might not get going because Johnny Gardner's been on pit road a number of times, so he might not be up to speed. We'll see as the green flag is back in the air on lap 48. Dylan Young pulls ahead. Carter Friesen second. Carson Gum, who dominated before we had the cycle green flag pit stops, found himself trapped on the tail end of the lead lap in 3rd. He's now clear of the traffic and trying to run down the top 2. Matthew McIntire rather, making the move on J Gardner, moving him out of the way. He wants to get up there and bypass the race leaders to get himself back on the tail end of the lead lap. The way they're racing back there, I almost wonder if we might not be done with our fill of cautions. We got Jessica Shelton up the middle going by Gardner as J Millz was down on the apron, 2 tires down there and held up the whole inside line. Wow, what a block by R Brommer on Benny Watson. That's a battle for 7th rather. Watson getting held up by J Gardner. Now Brommer's going to get held up by the 14. Looks like Watson will take the 7th position. Further up, Dylan Poteet under fire from Jessica Shelton. That's a battle for 5th as Poteet gets a little loose on the apron. M McIntire brushes the wall off of turn 2. It's going to lose him quite a bit of momentum. Trent Dunham. Just noticed the one car completely hoodless. I don't know if he ran into the back of somebody under pacing or not, but that car is definitely going to be off the pace. He's currently a lap down in the 20th position, and that was a car that was up there battling inside the top 10 earlier on in this race as Shelton gets to the inside of Poteet. This is for the 5th spot, and right behind them, Benny Watson trying to make it a 3-dog fight for a spot in the top 5. William Brock has taken leave of that battle as he slots in the 4th position. Up ahead of him, though, top 3, all nose-to-tail single file, Ford, Chevy, Toyota, Young, Friesen, and Gum. Undoubtedly, at this point, the 3 strongest cars of the day. And it could very well come down between these 3. 2 of them have not yet won this season, Young and Gum. Carter Friesen, on the other hand, has won the Daytona 500. We should also speculate, if we do go into a long green flag run here, about the possibility of slower traffic now, with a lot of drivers continuing on after sustaining damage from that last wreck. And there is one of them, J Jefferson in the 5. He is just now leaving turn 4. The leaders are exiting turn 2, so it'll be a while before they catch that Chevrolet. But they could very well catch him. Now, we went back green on lap 48. However, I don't think any of the lead lap cars came to pit road. And so with that being said, I'm not 100% certain what the fuel window is of when these drivers are going to have to hit pit road again. As Carson Gum will take the 2nd position away from Carter Friesen and now sets his sights on the Hooters Ford Mustang. If we had these drivers come to pit road when that yellow flag came out, then I would say they'd have to pit somewhere around lap 73, 74, somewhere like that. But they may have to pit a little bit earlier than that, with the fact they did not come to pit road under that last yellow flag. Now, I'm not 100% certain about this, but I said that none of the lead lap cars came to pit road. I think I did see Benny Watson hit pit road under that last yellow, so he might be a little bit better on fuel than everybody else, but I still think everybody's going to have to pit at least one more time before this race is over, whether they pitted under that last caution or not. Carson Gum, he managed to get around Carter Friesen for 2nd, but he has not been able to get away from him and reel in Dylan Young. The gap about a 2nd between the two. The gap between Dylan Young and the slower car of J Jefferson, though, is definitely decreasing. Jefferson leaving turn 4, and now Dylan Young leaving the 4th corner. So I would say he's going to catch that 5 car somewhere in the next 2 laps. And the question is, where does he encounter him, and how well does he get around him? Because if he takes his time and doesn't get around him quickly, that's going to allow Carson Gum and Carter Friesen to close back in. These two enjoying almost a 3-second lead back to the 4th place battle, which right now is going on between Benny Watson, William Brock, and R Brommer. Watson in 4th, Brock in 5th, and Brommer currently in that 6th position. What a great job by R Brommer. You can still see the buckle on the hood of his machine when he got into the back of Keith Batson back on our first caution. But that car is still up to speed, and R Brommer showed a lot of good speed in the All-Star race as well when he finished 2nd in the All-Star Open to transfer into the All-Star event. J Millz right now trying to make the best of the situation. He is in the 14th position, the first car 1 lap down. So he's still in the top 15, trying to at least salvage as good a finish as he can. Trying to make his way back up into the top 30 in the point standings. Looks like Dylan Young got around J Jefferson pretty well, as did Carson Gum and Carter Friesen. Now they rekindled the battle for second place. Another thing that I noticed too, though, in the All-Star race, it was great to have that All-Star race, which I believe was 51 laps. Gave us a little bit of a taste with the long green flag run of what to expect here in the Coke 600, but what I loved was it gave us a little bit of a, I don't know, it was kind of like peeking just before a test, peeking at the answers, giving us a little bit of hints of what we could expect. And one thing that I noticed that some drivers were able to do in the All-Star race is to gain positions with some strategy on pit road during green flag pit stops, because in that race it was really Dylan Poteet and Jordan Lopez battling 1-2, and then when we got down to the end of the race, there were 6-7 drivers up there battling for that win. So that could be something that we could see take place here when that final pit stop takes place. And I say final in quotations because who knows, when these drivers pit, we may still be in the fuel window where they can't quite make it. Jack Mitchell going to go a lap down now. He is in the 31st position. You can see he's got damage on his McDonald's Chevy Camaro. And here we go, pit stops for Carter Friesen and Carson Gum. Ryan Brommer in as well, and these are regularly scheduled stops because these are drivers that did not pit under the last caution. Wow, and with them pitting now, oh boy, I don't know. This is going to put them about 12 laps away from the finish. Or, I'm sorry, 22 laps away from the finish. I don't know if they're going to be in their fuel window or not. Dylan Young giving up the race lead. He's on pit road now as well. That's going to put J Millz back on the lead lap, as Benny Watson's going to take the top spot. And remember, as I stated, I was pretty certain Benny Watson came to pit road under that last caution, so I think he's a little bit better on fuel to go the rest of the way. And if this thing stays green to the end, Benny Watson might be the only driver that can make it on one more pit stop. He's already won a Crown Jewel race this season at Darlington in the Throne of Games 400. And we'll see if he might be able to get his second Crown Jewel race. A couple of other drivers have stayed out. Second place now is our Kentucky race winner, James Shelly. And I believe Jesse Turner has also stayed out. Our Atlanta winner, he's currently in third. So my assumption is that Watson, Shelly, and Turner, they all came to pit road under the last caution, which is why they're able to make it a little bit further. I think, or at least I thought, Matthew Rodriguez might be in that same boat as well. Yes, he is. He's in the 4th position. Although I think he was trapped a lap down, I think he's now back on the lead lap because he was able to stay out. Same for Vince Almariego, who's in 5th, and Benjamin Miles, J Millz in 6th and 7th. But when Rodriguez, Almariego, Miles, and Mills all have to pit, they will probably all fall a lap down once again. Chris Dollerton is currently 1 lap down up in the top 10, though. There he is. He's in 8th, but he'll still have to hit pit road. And Trent Dunham right now is in 9th. I believe the top 9 are still yet to hit pit lane. Dylan Young cycles around in the 10th position. I want to drop back to him real quick just to see where he is in relation to the 37 of Carter Friesen and the 19 of Carson Gum. And you can see he built a pretty good advantage between himself and Carter Friesen. Looks like William Brock took a position away from Carson Gum. So after the cycle of pit stops, looks like he will come around to 3rd place with Gum in 4th and Ryan Brommer in 5th. Saw Trent Dunham hitting pit lane. James Shelly still there in 2nd. Benny Watson in the lead. When is he going to hit pit road? Stays out a little bit longer. James Shelly's going to give up 2nd. He's going to hit pit road this time. Jesse Turner is in as well. So now we're basically just waiting on the 75 of Benny Watson. When is he going to hit pit lane? This potentially will give up the race lead, depending on when Dylan Young gets around to him, because Dylan Young, he's first got to pass him to unlap himself, as now most of everybody else is going to hit pit road. Dylan Young's going to be top of your screen in just a moment, I think. There he is, going around. Now he's going around to unlap himself. Next time around, it would be to bypass Benny Watson for the race lead. Let's see what they do on this 75. He's pitting with about 15 laps to go. Do they go for right sides only? 2-tire pit stop? How much fuel do they need? They are going to go around and do left sides as well. I'm trying to watch top of the screen for the white and orange number 2 of Dylan Young. I don't see him yet. There he is. He's just hitting the start-finish line now. And he's going to come around and take the race lead away from Benny Watson, who just now is leaving pit road exit. So Dylan Young will cycle back to the top position. And the car he's going to have to worry about now just moved into second, and that's our Sonoma winner, William Brock. Now my question is, at the timing of when most of these guys hit pit road in the early stages of those green flag pit stops, are they good to go on fuel? Or is Benny Watson potentially in the catbird seat? We're going to have to wait and see. Dylan Young last time by was a little less than 2 seconds ahead of William Brock. He's got traffic to deal with. That's J Jefferson. There's also more traffic for William Brock to deal with. A couple of teammates there in Matthew Rodriguez, who currently is in 15th. Matt McIntire, who's in 28th. Dylan Young got around Julius Anderson, causing more traffic for William Brock to have to deal with. And if Dylan Young can increase his gap back to William Brock, every lap he ticks away is going to be one lap closer to William Brock having to throw it into panic mode and trying to run down the 2 car. Brock's doing pretty good getting around the traffic though. Now going to have to bypass Julius Anderson. Ooh, he carried a little too much speed through that corner, brushed the wall off turn 4. It's going to kill his momentum just the least little bit as he lost 4/10 that lap. Wyatt Quail in the 41 just up ahead, and then clean racetrack up to the 2 of Dylan Young. Question is, how much of a battle is he going to have to deal with Carter Friesen? If Friesen is willing to ride in line with William Brock, the 2 of them will probably be able to catch Dylan Young for the race lead. But if Friesen forces the issue for second, there's no way they're going to be able to reel him in. Carson Gum right now in the 4th position. That car looks fast here in the closing stages. He's now boxed in with lap traffic. Dylan Poteet now currently in the 5th spot. A great run for him. 6th is Ryan Brommer. Jessica Shelton dealing with traffic currently is in the 7th spot, and now she's under fire from Benny Watson for that position. James Shelly right now is being scored in the 9th spot, so that staying out really helped him. He's in the top 10 along with Jesse Turner right now in the 10th position, and Turner's quite a long ways back. There he is. Dylan Young about to catch more traffic. Johnny Gardner, Jack Mitchell, and his teammate Mitchell Collins. William Brock and Carter Friesen remaining single file. They've been 3/10 faster the last couple of laps. This time by 1.5 seconds, cut down to 1.4. They gained a 10th. And Friesen, either he just doesn't have the car to battle William Brock, or he's realizing that he needs to stay with fellow Chevy Camaro William Brock in single file formation if they're going to catch Dylan Young. I think Carter Friesen's looking at the big picture here. He realizes he's got a win at Daytona, but he wants to make sure he's in the hunt to maybe pick up a second win, especially as we close into the end of the regular season. He wants to have 2 wins in the bank to make sure he gets a confirmed spot in the playoffs. The top 3 drivers right now on track all come into this race inside of the top 25 in points. Dylan Young is 7th in standings, William Brock 5th, and Friesen right now in 24th. And Dylan Young is the only one of the three that does not have a victory. Now passing Johnny Gardner as William Brock and Carter Friesen bypass Jack Mitchell. They've cut it down to 8/10 and continuing to close. Look at this, Johnny Gardner trying to get a lap back from Dylan Young. That opens the door up down low for William Brock to maybe make a move, and Dylan Young much better off the corner. Brock's going to lose a little bit of ground, but hello, hello, hello. We got a battle for the race lead as we are hitting 7 laps to go here in the Coke 600. And still the question is about these drivers. Are they good to go on fuel? 8th place Benny Watson hopes they're not. I don't think these drivers are worrying about saving fuel right now. They are going for it. As Dylan Young about to catch his teammate Mitchell Collins, you got to wonder if Collins might be willing to play some defense. If Dylan Young passes him, would Collins be willing to try and hold up William Brock, who is less than half a second now off the back bumper of Dylan Young's Ford? Carter Friesen right there in third. He's lost a touch with the top two. Dylan Young just trying to tick away every lap he can, get closer and closer to that checkered flag, but William Brock is getting closer and closer to his back bumper, and Collins couldn't hold Brock off. William Brock right on the bumper, left rear quarter panel, alongside for the lead into turn 1. Ooh, he got down on the apron there in turn 1, got a little loose, recovered though, and he will clear for the top spot off turn 2. Dylan Young with the crossover heading into 3. Almost forcing William Brock up the track there through 3 and 4. Dylan Young gonna take the top position back. They will see 4 laps to go. Question is though, what's in the tank? Is there enough to make it to the finish? As their side-by-side Carter Friesen starts to close in on this battle. I don't see any traffic ahead. Down the back straightaway, it is clean out the windshield. So it's Dylan Young, William Brock, and Carter Friesen with what could be very dry fuel tanks to battle it out for this victory. Brock now trying to take the lead back. Look at this as they've been side by side. Friesen sneaks into the picture. Wendy is here. Off turn 2, it's Brock in the lead. Friesen will slot to second. Dylan Young now in third. 2.5 laps to go as Brock begins to pull away just by a little bit. Side by side for second. That's allowing Brock to gap himself. They gotta settle this out quickly. Dylan Young might be able to swing around the outside and keep second place from Friesen. Looks like he's got him at least for now, and yes, Dylan Young will keep the second spot. Friesen got tight going into turn 1. Now Dylan Young, who's had one of the strongest cars of the day, trying to fight his way back up there to battle William Brock for this win. Does he have enough time? About 4 car lengths, make it 3 car lengths, as they will see the white flag this time. Slower car ahead, that's J Jefferson. Will he play a factor here on the final lap? Where's William Brock going to catch him? He's going to catch him right up here in turns 1 and 2. It's going to slow him up just the least little bit. Will that be enough for Dylan Young to capitalize? Big run for Dylan Young down the back straightaway. Brock to the inside. Dylan Young goes to the inside. Can Dylan Young get the run through 3 and 4? William Brock out of turn 4 for the final time. He won at Sonoma. He'll get his second win of the season. William Brock wins the Coke 600 at Charlotte. And the caution flag is out on the final lap, but it didn't matter. We raced back to the checkers regardless. And William Brock picks up the victory, and the wreck might have involved Dylan Poteet and Jessica Shelton, who were running up in the top 10 at the time. Because they were in, I think, 5th and 6th. Watson's going to finish up in 5th with Shelly in 6th. I think Poteet and Shelton got together, bringing out this caution on the final lap. And there you see, they're on pit road. I don't know if they'll still finish in the top 10 or not. We'll have to wait for official scoring. But William Brock, how about this team? 5th in the points coming into this race. They get their second win of the season. And believe it or not, it's only their second top 5 of the season. His only top 5 coming into this race was his win at Sonoma. And now he gets his second top 5 with his second win on the year. He joins J Lopes as a 2-time winner. And this right here could very well have locked up William Brock a spot in this season's chase for the championship. The driver out of Northeast Motorsports, even though he is from the Georgia area. Standings are official. Best Dylan Young, who probably had the best car of the week. He'll have to settle for second. Carter Friesen brings it home third. Carson Gum in fourth. Benny Watson fifth. James Shelly sixth. How about the Toyotas? Fourth, fifth, and sixth. Ryan Brommer. I am shocked that car finished up inside the top 10 with the damage he got back in the first caution, but he gets 7th. And Jesse Turner, great run for a guy who had a win at a track very similar to this at Atlanta. He'll bring it home in 8th place, and he was 26 points back behind Levi McIntire and Zach Rogers. I don't know if he's going to take the points lead or not. Probably not, with Rogers finishing in 17th and McIntire in 23rd, but it'll make it a very interesting battle for the points lead, I think, heading into next week. The rest of the top 10 were indeed Jessica Shelton and Dylan Poteet. We're going to take a moment, go back, and take a look at a replay of what happened to those two. Well, Carson Gum had one of the strongest cars of the day, but a lot of circumstances did not work out in his favor, and I thought maybe it might have been some frustration, but it almost looks like Mitchell Collins, who was a lap-down machine, tried to come down and pinch Carson Gum. So to be honest, I don't really blame Carson Gum for dumping the 22 right there. The only problem is that car's going to drift back down the racetrack, and unfortunately for Dylan Poteet and Jessica Shelton, who were both en route to good finishes, there's where Poteet gets involved, nowhere to go. Johnny Gardner collected up in it as well. I look at Shelton. Do I go high? Do I go low? Doesn't matter. 22 was there. I watched Benny Watson there in the 75. Ryan Brommer in the 9, James Shelly. Oh man, Brommer just barely missed, as did Shelly. And this was racing back to the checkered flag when this happened. Actually, I think these drivers were racing back to the white flag. But Gardner, a tough day, just gets worse for him. Shelton, who was in 6th. Poteet was, I believe, in 5th at the time. And they're going to have to settle for 9th and 10th. At least they finished in the top 10, but not what they were looking for, not the way they wanted to end off the day. So as we look at the rest of the finishing results here, J Millz will finish in 11th. That was a well-needed run for him. Matthew Rodriguez will finish in 12th. Chris Dollerton in 13th. Boy, that was a team that really had to battle back. I think he was 2 laps down at one point. He finishes 1 lap down in the 13th position. And I think both he and J Millz with 11th and 13th, I think they have both moved their way back into the top 30 in the point standings. Well, for Millz, he's moved back into the top 30 in points. For Dollerton, I think it's the first time this season he'll be in the top 30 in standings. Vince Almariego will get 14th, Benjamin Miles 15th. Trent Dunham, hoodless and all, is going to get 16th. Zach Rogers will finish in 17th position. He needed to gain 11 spots on Levi McIntire to take the overall points lead. He only gained, it looks like, a total of 6. As McIntire finished in 23rd. Rest of the top 20 were J Lopes, Matt McIntire, and Julius Anderson. Look on down through the remainder of the finishing results, and amazingly, we only had 5 drivers finish out of the race. Johnny Gardner, who came to the garage area right in the closing stage, we saw him get involved in that wreck with Mitchell Collins, Dylan Poteet, and Jessica Shelton. And then Charles Sandfer, Cole Baker, Adam Garcia, and James Qualls all out of the race in the conclusion of today's event. We only had 8 cars finish on the lead lap. A lot of that due to 2 different things. We had a caution come out in the middle of our first round of green flag pit stops, and then we had a lot of drivers play some strategy on that last green flag pit stop, and as a consequence, only 8 drivers managed to finish on the lead lap. But it came down to William Brock and Dylan Young. William Brock picks up the victory and gets his second win of the season. Hope you guys enjoyed today's very lengthy Coca-Cola 600 race from Charlotte. If you did, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, to become part of the crew today. We have shown you your full finisher results. These are your overall point standings heading into next week's race. Let me double check and see where indeed that race is going to be coming from. And, oh wow, this is going to be interesting. We're going road course racing again at Pensacola. That is a very interesting road course, and I do believe we are running the 2019 rules package there. So we'll see how the draft comes into play, not only in the super speedway section, but in the road course section as well. But until then, I've been Seth Cole, and you've been watching a production of the SRA, all flying racing at its best. We'll see you guys next week at Pensacola.